Okay, Chapter 7 is multiplying and dividing polynomials. Chapter 5 was adding, subtracting. So it's all the same basic things you learned before, and now we're just doing multiplying and dividing. So, first two examples. If you're starting with 3x times 2x, you can rewrite it. So you've got the two coefficients, so 3 and 2, and then the two variables next to each other, x and x. And then you multiply each separately. So 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared. You're going to need to know, remember your exponent rules from chapter 3. For b, we have 4x times 2y. Again, rewrite it so coefficients are together and your variables are together. So 4 times 2 is 8. And x and y are different variables. They represent different numbers. You can't combine them, you can't simplify it, so it's just 8 multiplied by x multiplied by y. For these four, you do them on your own. So you can pause it, or if you have the notes on you, work through it on your own. Okay, so negative 2 times 5 will be negative 10. X times x is x squared. For D, negative times a negative will give you a positive. So 3 times 2 will be 6. And you have 2 q's, so it's q squared. For E, this is just a fraction. So it's negative 2/5 y times 15y. When you're solving these, you can switch to decimals. Just be careful. If it's a multiple choice question, your 4 multiple choice answers will be in fraction form. So I recommend keeping it in fractions. So negative 2 times 15 would be negative 30, because this is really saying 15 over 1. 5 times 1 is 5. So if it's negative 30 over 5, and then y times y is y squared. And you can simplify this down to negative 6y squared, because 30 divided by 5 is 6. And for f, you have different variables again, so those cannot be simplified. So multiplying the coefficients, you get negative 6 times x times y. Make sure you do not use multiplication signs. It looks like an x, and that's the main variable you're going to use, so you can't have multiplication signs anymore. The problem solving for this is pretty basic, because it's monomial times monomial, so it's going to be area of a rectangle or area of a square. So if you have a rectangular football field with a length of 4.3x and a width of 2.4x, find the expression. You don't know what x equals. You won't get a final answer. The best you can do is simplify it. So 2.4 times 4.3 will give you 10.32. X times x is x squared. So you can just work through 7, 8, and 9 on page 260. It's A to E or A to F. If you're getting the first 3 correct, just work through them all to make sure you see every different type of question with negatives and fractions and decimals. And now it's the first part on multiplication. For division, rules are still the same for dividing coefficients. You just divide them. And for variables, we're simplifying now. So for A, negative 8 divided by 4 will be negative 2. And for the variables, if you have the same variable on the top and the bottom, you can just start simplifying. So x squared divided by x, you'll lose 1x on top, and the x on the bottom will cancel, so leaving you with just negative 2x. For b, again, divide the coefficients, so 6 divided by 3 is 2. The x will cancel, leaving you with just 2y. For these two, again, try them on your own. For C, if you have division written like this, you can just solve it. But a lot of times it's easier to write it with one number or one expression over top of the other. So if you rewrite this, it would be negative 18 times P times N divided by 3N. So negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. The two N's cancel, leaving you with just P. And finally for D, 72 divided by 8 is 9. S and S cancel. So your answer is 9 times R. Now the problem solving for division is going to be area of a triangle, which is, again, hopefully very simple. So if the area of the triangle is 16y squared, and the base of the triangle is shown by 8y, what is the height of the triangle? So area of a triangle is pretty basic. What makes this one harder is you're not finding the area, but this time you're finding the height. So using your formula for area of a triangle, you want the height on one side of the equal sign by itself. So to begin with, to make this simpler, we're going to manipulate the equation so you have height on its own. First thing you need to do is move the 2 to the left side. So if you multiply both sides by 2, on the right, those 2's will cancel. So you're left with 2 times A equals base times height. Then you want, again, height by itself. So if you divide both sides by the base, those bases cancel. So your formula to solve this will be 2 times the area divided by the base equals height. This is as hard as it'll really get for these division questions for problem solving, because you just have to move the formula around and know how to do that. So once you've done this, you can plug in your two expressions of 16y squared and 8y. So what you have there. Then you can substitute your expressions in. So area is 16y squared. The base is 8y. So to simplify, multiply the 2 times 16 first, which gives you 32y squared. And now you're simplifying. So 32 divided by 8 will be 4. And then y on the bottom cancels. Whoop. One that looks like it's on the 8. Y on the bottom cancels. One of the y's up top cancels, leaving you just y. So the height is shown by 4y. And if you wanted to double check that quickly, you have the base times the height divided by 2. You know that the base is 8y times 4y divided by 2 gives you 32y squared divided by 2. Simplifying this down, area is then 16y squared, which matches what we started with. So it works. So your homework, you've done 7, 8, and 9, so do number 10, and then 15, 16, 17.